Welcome to the Java Cafe, Java fam. Good morning. Welcome to the Java Cafe, Java fam.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Today is Wednesday, November 10th, 2021. It is We Need to Know Wednesdays. I'm giving folks a fair warning right now. Today, unfortunately, we have to serve some strong brew in reference to a lot of things that are going on in our community. I just wanted to let folks know that at 9:20 a.m., at-large City Councilor Julia Mejia is going to call in and talk about some of the things that's going on in community. We just had a phone call real quick, and I asked her what it is she was doing this morning, if she could call in and speak with the community about what we were talking about. Then, I won't say ironically, but then at 9:40, as we have explained before in the realm of We Need to Know, as Michelle Wu is an at-large city councilor on November 16th, she will no longer be an at-large councilor. The process in Boston right now is when an at-large seat is vacated, the fifth person goes into that seat. And as we know, Julia Mejia in the updated numbers had won the at-large seat in seat number 4 by 3 votes. The final numbers were actually 3 votes, not 1. And so Alejandra, as I've mentioned before, and I've texted and called her and asked her to go ahead and do it. It's out there that she's going to be invited to the council. Maureen Feeney, who is a city clerk, has up to 21 days to inform the council. Now, it'll be an indicator on where Maureen is if she waits forever to notify the council, but we're not going to get too much into that today. I really wanted to begin by acknowledging and holding space. It is my understanding that in addition to all the trauma that we're dealing with the police-involved shootings and all the other shootings of non-police-involved shootings here of Black and brown people in our community, my understanding is there were 2 people shot last night in Mattapan, and my understanding is that one of them was a female who is now deceased. Boston, something needs to give, and we need to figure something out. So a few things, and I'm going to go try to keep in some order. So there have been police shootings, and a few years ago, Representative Russell Holmes led post a convening of another police-involved shooting. Representative Russell Holmes led an effort that every time there was a police-involved shooting, certain members from the community would be pulled in to be shown video to get the details where they can while there's an active investigation. But the sentiment is that the community, people that the police are supposed to protect and serve, want to know the details of what happened. Now, in both, let me try to stay focused. And so in this meeting, there are, presumed leaders. The invitation is done. So this particular meeting today, let me keep it 100. As you all know, the district attorney, Rachel Rollins, called in on Monday. We had a very comprehensive dialogue. I'm going to splice that actually and make that just one video so you all can hear directly from her what her process is. She now has another police-involved shooting. And so what happens in this meeting, certain people are invited, leaders of organizations, thoughtful people from the community, Black and brown leadership, and how that list is constructed, I'm not sure. Here's a couple of things that I find very interesting. Russell Holmes initiated the perpetual meeting when these incidents happen. As of last night, in talking with him, He was not invited. Interesting. And so to speed things up this morning, now I will say, did our district attorney follow up? Did our district attorney text me and let me know it wasn't her meeting and she had told me to reach out to the mayor? And I, did and didn't expect a response, but and no shade, but because of probably prior shade and just so much going on, you know what I mean? And let me just name this. Just because I and some certain others are not in the room does not mean that there's a good representation of community in the room. However, it would be good for the community to know who is in the room. I can tell you one I know is in the room after texting with the DA this morning and informing her that the state rep from this area was not invited to the meeting. He is now sitting at BPD headquarters. Guess who helped facilitate our state rep getting to the meeting? What is that? What is that? And I talked with City Councilor Julie Mejia, who from the Daring Road incident to the incident down the street. Now, let me back up a little bit. Today's meeting is presumably based around what happened on Saturday, the first police-involved shooting in 72 hours in the city of Boston. But another presumption is that today they'll discuss some of the details of yesterday's shooting. To back up a little bit, even more so, somebody's loved both of these young men. And so we have to hold space and folks can get me because I'm right balanced with holding space for those that were killed. And then also based on what we're hearing that the police went out, one was stabbed, police officers were shot at yesterday in this standoff with this man who is reported has a criminal history and some mental health issues. And so we definitely have to hold space for those that were injured and even more so for those whose lives were lost because somebody loved these young men. We also want to keep the officers who were injured in prayer as well. And so kind of, I'm trying to stay focused. So I put down some notes. Here's what concerns me and what we need to know. There has been a lot of movement and action behind police reform here in the city of Boston, the state of Massachusetts, both in the city and the state of Massachusetts. Here's where the concern is. If you listen to Greg, Commander-in-Chief Long, I've known Greg Long for some years because I had an interaction with him some years ago. And, we laugh about it when we see each other here and there. And so he's a police officer. He's a white male police officer. And so let's just name the cadence that is coming from him around what our police officers deal with. Is it real? It's absolutely real. A former law enforcement officer I told me last week, domestic violence calls are one of the most dangerous to go into. Yesterday, technically was a domestic violence call in the home, domestic, partner, children, parent. That encompasses domestic. So they go into these situations and reportedly from what was on the news, the stepmom and what happened, and so two things that are coming out of here. One, we need to hold the line around police reform. There's a new administration coming in. My understanding is the police contract is up for renewal. We need to hold the line and ensure, and Michelle Wu has stated and committed she was the reform candidate. How do we support her? How does her administration engage and ensure? How do Black and brown electeds and ally electeds that believe in police reform proactively inform the community and keep us aware of when we need to make phone calls and move and show up? How does that happen? I don't want to get too far off. Police reform is on the line, and we need to hold the line. There is a narrative. If you listen to Greg at the press conference last night, there is a narrative that is being written and asserted to ensure that police funding is not redirected. We got two categories: police reform extremists and anti-reform extremists, and both of them are going to take these incidents and the murder of a woman last night, an attempt to create some narratives. No, we in the community need to make sure that both of them come together, and it's based on our balanced central desires and concerns about how we deal with those that are supposed to protect and serve, and how we become more intentional about making sure that our Black men are dealing with their issues around mental health. Black men, let me pause and say something to you for a minute. The anger, the frustration, and Ma, if you're watching, I haven't checked the comments, and the bullshit that life brings is real. This is why people like myself, Carlos Enriquez, Yoga Mike, others are talking about it is hella sexy and manly to a woman or man that may like men if you are dealing with your issues. The scary part is, and I got to be 100. I was dealing with anger and frustration yesterday, not in a manner where I wanted to hurt somebody, but I know my body was just off. I could feel it. And so what we're dealing with is absolutely real, but we have to be, and I moved away from have to and should, but at this point, it's becoming, I don't want to over alarm. The potential of a Black and brown man having a negative impact with a law enforcement officer is high when unaddressed anger, past, and the bullshit of life is bearing upon that Black man, and they're put Black and brown men, and they're put in a situation to where they just feel no other choice, a sense of hopelessness. And so Black men, get your happy asses in therapy. When it comes to both of these incidents with the police involved shooting, there is pointing to issues around mental health. There's pointing to issues around reentry. The young man yesterday, it's reported, had a criminal history, just recently came home in July. Where was reentry? Not asking if he engaged, but how aggressive was reentry? Were the probation officers keeping in touch? Did he miss appointments? Was there checking in? Was it a mandate that he goes to therapy? These are the things Black and brown Boston, and especially Black and brown men, that I implore, encourage you, fuss at you, nag you, whatever way I can use this platform to encourage you to please address your issues. We don't want to be in a situation where you get pulled over, something goes, law enforcement interaction, and all of you, what you've been through in life culminates in an incident. Little far-fetched, maybe, but I'd rather be proactive and stay in front of this if I know I have some things that are locked up in me in which I couldn't deal with. Baby mama drama, relationship issues, job issues, trying to stay off if you had a substance abuse issues, trying to stay off of that. If we're drinking, alcohol is a depressant. There is so much that is bombarding us as Black men. It is imperative that we begin to address our issues proactively. Naisha Deed got Pure Spark. Dr. Charmaine Jackman has the other website. And women and men that like men or whatever, because we want to be balanced here. You have a power to inform and encourage, to get these men to address their issues in therapy. It is away from a potential interaction with law enforcement. Brothers, it helps your relationship. It helps with the flow at work and your day-to-day. It might even help you stay committed to exercising and building that body. There are options like yoga. There are Black male therapists. Is it hard to find? Is it somewhat like dating and you trying to find, her, your queen or whatever? Again, there's a lot of presumptions here, speaking morally from a heterosexual orientation, because I want to name and hold that, because there's a whole nother issue within Black men that we need to talk about, of those that are dealing with sexuality. And that for some is locked up within them as well. And on the opposite side, they feel that they need to assert so much male aggression that is often interpreted as male toxic. My God, today, I'm trying to stay focused because I already done got off. So, police reform is on the line, and our Black men need to address their issues. And law enforcement those individual officers, we need to ensure that some sort of therapy is in place for them proactively. And all that's going on, what training is in place? How do you work with them and get an anonymous survey about how would you describe a black male or something like that, and get a consensus of what the department thinks of us when they pull up? And the other thing in the narrative that's being introduced, if there were more incidents because of these, they're going to start using that narrative. I felt my life was in danger. God help us today. Brothers, seek out therapists. One website I know for sure right now is and Naisha, if somebody's in here, and oh Jesus, the comments, Lord, the comments, Jesus. Whew. All right, I know something's up because I just felt the quickening. Listen, change is coming to the city of Boston. And if I could just dip into the old Elder Hills for a minute, and when there is change, and when people that are dealing with poverty and people that have been impoverished and downtrodden, something in the atmosphere around the systemic systems that have been in place for years, something just happens because that crap is being disrupted. If you're spiritually inclined, why do you think all of this is going on when they're on the eve of change? Getting back to where I'm trying to stay focused. Not only do we have to hold the line, here we go with counselor. Hold on, let me get her in the room. Counselor, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. I'm so glad you called because Jesus, you know I have the propensity to go off a little bit. And Lord Jesus, you being on the phone may not help. But counselor, you checked in this morning on me also to get, a little bit of pulse because you're coming off just over a week of campaigning downtime, time with Annalise. But ma'am, according to what you're hearing, seeing, what counselor, just whatever it is you want to say, speak, ask, or whatever, it just, the floor is yours to engage with the community.
Well, first of all, good morning, everyone.
I'm sorry. Good morning, counselor. I'm sorry.
No. But listen, I saw your post this morning alerting to the fact that there was a meeting this morning in regards to what's been happening, and I was not aware of it, and so called you because you seem to always have your ears on the ground and the pulse of what's happening, and so wanted to get a better understanding of what's going on out in these streets because, as you mentioned, just coming off of this election and really trying to find some time with Annalise and, catch up with my bills and all that. But listen, these streets are hot, and I'm really concerned about the mental health and wellness. And I really want to make sure that we're moving as a city and centering the lives of those and the voices of those who are living the realities and doing the work. So just really reached out to you because as someone who I know is in the know, I felt it was important for me to at least do a little bit of my own background research. And I figured I'd call you, James, because if anyone knew what was going on, it would be you. And, I'm really concerned about the narrative, right? This is, everything usually turns into politics, but really I'm hoping that we can take a pause and look at what the root cause of these issues are and address it in a very thoughtful manner. And I think that that's going to require all of us working across our differences really to tackle this issue. And this is not about us versus them or pointing the fingers, but really what are we going to do as a collective? And as you mentioned this morning, making sure that we're centering these conversations around the Black and brown men who are impacted and making sure that the voices of those who are struggling with community violence trauma. I saw a post, I think it was Dr. Gail Crump-Swaby talking about persistent community.
Not post, but persistent. Yep.
Yeah, that persistency, right? Because look, you and I both grew up here in the city of Boston. The Boston Miracle in the early 90s, there was a lot of wraparound services. Dollars were being allocated for pure leadership, violence prevention efforts. I feel like we've gotten away from what are community proven methods. and everything usually gets politicized in this point. And I think that we need to really pay heed that the trauma, the vicarious trauma that community face is also real, and it's triggering and it's re-triggering people, right? We're living in this constant world of fear. And I think that we need to have a real serious conversation. And, I just posted this morning that this is a public health crisis and mental health needs to be addressed as such. And I think that is what my hope is, that we'll see more of, because this one or the other situation is really not going to get us to where we need to be.
I agree, Counselor. And Darren was on the other day, and I think most folks would agree that you were one of the most visible and vocal elected black and brown Afro-Latina electeds in our city. What is it, Counselor, that in your second term, specifically to this issue, we know that you pushed through the Black and Brown Men's Commission. We know that you and I believe City Councilor Arroyo are moving around reparations. What is it that we need to do to help hold the line to ensure that you get action across after the conversations? How do we engage? How do we make sure that police reform still happens, and also that we look at this reparations thing and then also support the young Black and Brown Men's Commission?
Yeah, so thank you for that. So, I have a lot in the last 2 years in terms of what's working and what doesn't in the city. And I think continuing to do the work where it's community centered and driven. These are people policy centered approaches, right, to this work. So that work must continue. We can't do this work in silos, right? So continuing to engage community in all aspects of decision-making processes is definitely something that we want to continue in term 2. But in terms of what this moment calls for is that as a body, as a city council body, my hope is that we start seeing this work as a whole, right? Regardless of what district you represent, the city as a whole the city council as a whole needs to move with the understanding that we are all responsible for the entire city of Boston. While we have our own bits and pieces of the city, that we need to start thinking about our work more collectively. And I'm hoping to see more of that in term 2. And that's something that I'm definitely going to be pushing for. And in terms of accountability and transparency, and accessibility, because accessibility is about information. Accountability is about making sure that we're holding ourselves accountable to what we say we're going to do and what that looks like in community with those who are out here doing the work. And transparency, how are we sharing information? I think that we need to be more hands-on as a body in terms of how we respond and doing so collectively. My hope is that as we continue to move, that we recognize that, Black and Brown leadership needs to work more in tandem with each other. I think because of COVID and because of, we all had to vacate the premises, if you will, during COVID, that relationship building really didn't present itself for those opportunities. My hope is that this term will get it right in terms of how we move as a collective voice. And that we're centering again the issues that we have been hooting and hollering out in these streets for decades, that we find a strategy that is going to really move the agenda forward, right? We're tired of having the conversation about the conversation and the public hearings about the public hearings. We already know what the problems are. Now where the mandate is, what are we going to do about it? And we need to put together an action plan that is going to be something that we're going to be able to move forward as a collective, right? That's what I believe is missing, is that key ingredient of a community action plan that is designed collectively with everyone at the table to hold ourselves accountable. And everybody has to do their part. It can't be just, the clergy. It can't just be the community activists, the nonprofit organizations. It's going to have to take all systems and all hands approach to this work.
All means
all.
Come.
Right? Because otherwise it's just a whole bunch of we're gonna keep. I remember the meeting that you hosted probably 5 or 6 years ago where you did just that, right? And now it's time. We don't even have to reinvent the wheel. Let's just go back to the.
Julia, I'm sorry, Councilman here. Stop, because I literally wrote this morning, and I was struggling with the fact of the we need to know model. Bring them out.
That's
They
right.
want to call people in and certain people in, and no disrespect up to those that were called in. But go ahead. I'm sorry. I thank you for the affirmation. Thank you for the affirmation.
Absolutely. And you know what, James? I remember that press conference and that event that we hosted, where over 800 people showed up at the Bruce Bowen building. Right?
Forgot about that.
We have notes. We have notes from that, and that was in 2016, 2015. Right? So we have the working framework for what this could look like. Now the question is, where's the political appetite to implement that? And I think that that's what we need to do. And then we also need to center it on mental health, because, listen, there's so many people struggling out here right now. And if we don't tackle the root cause, this is one thing that the last thing that I'll say. Yes, reparations is part of our agenda that we have been working on. It's the Black Men and Boys Commission that we hope will address some of these issues. But we're also putting together a literacy task force here in the city of Boston, because that's feeding the school to prison pipeline. There are so many young people who are dealing right now with the issues of being unable to read and write that they're ending up in DYS, and no one is treating that. Then we have our returning citizens that are coming back, and we expect them to thrive, but they're struggling to read and write themselves, so they can't fill out a job application. Then we have these people who are coming here from different countries who are struggling with reading and writing, even in their own native language, and adult learners who are struggling. So literacy, for me, is also an issue that can get at some of the root causes that are showing up in our schools in ways that feed the school to prison pipeline. So I think now is the time for us to really take a look at ourselves, put aside our differences as best as we know how, and center this work in what matters, and that is collaborative work. And you have the model. You brought people together. Let's bring out those notes. Let's look at what we need to do. Let's put some money behind it, and let's be about the work. I mean, like, this is it. This is our moment in time to really change.
The counselor, and that is the fear. You know, I'm a man of faith, and that is the little inkling and seeing that I see. If we don't move strategically now, we're going to miss an opportunity. I know you said you had a 9:30 when we were talking. I said, hey, could you call in? So I want to hold you to that. But counselor, thank you. The other thing is for your support in the post work on Yes on 3. Around the elected school committee. I know that you're going to need some support around that as well. Yeah. I believe you and also Councilor Arroyo dealing with the home rule petition to make that take place. So at any point, you can check
There's a lot of work.
Okay.
A lot of work, James. So and you know what?
Yes, ma'am.
My 9:30 hasn't called me yet, so let me just keep talking.
Okay, go ahead.
So James, you know what? The key of this conversation is making sure that we're centering it in community, right? And that we can't. Like, there's a lot of self-appointed leaders. There's a lot of everything happening across this city. And what we need to do is get real, roll up our sleeves, and be about it. And so I'm here for it. You know, I always am. That's why I reached out to you this morning, because I really wanted to get a sense of what you know, because the streets know what's happening, and we need to take our leadership from the people who are out on these streets. You know, so what good are we if we're not good to the process? So let's build, let's convene people, let's bring out those notes that you already have from years ago, the notes that we have from the Determined Divas event that we did years ago, and let's build, and let's just make it happen. We don't have to ask permission. We don't have to wait for somebody to invite us to the table. Let's just create the table, set the menu, and let's get it going, period.
Period. Counselor, thank you. The platform is here. Let's keep in touch. Congratulations on your win. You were second billing, and would you say it was 55 away from top billing? 55 votes or 500?
No, only 500. But listen, this is important key to recognize is that we went from winning by one vote to getting 61,000 votes, more votes than Anissa was able to secure. And more importantly, we only sent out one mailer in collaboration with someone else. And the other person that got the top bill has been in office for a long time, ran for mayor. So if you look at it, we did really well as a people. And so I just want everybody to thank everybody who went out to vote for the work that we're doing. And really do appreciate the community support, because y'all came out strong, and that's how we build.
Counselor, thank you. I will be in touch. I have you might get a chance to work with someone from the last election
I
very
know.
soon, and so
I'm
she's calling
excited.
in a few minutes. But
Okay.
thank you,
Okay, my
Counselor,
love.
and we'll
Thank
keep in
you.
touch. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, bye-bye. Bye.
Everyone, as you heard, that was Counselor Mejia calling in. I always love how she shows up in her authenticity and keeps things real. And so I'm noticing some comments and not really able to get into all the comments today, but yeah, we have to. Everything that Counselor Mejia was saying, we have to hold the line around police reform. We have to also hold the line around ensuring that the success of Yes on 3 goes through and the homeroom petition um, um, gets through. And so we have potential at-large city councilor Alejandra St. Guillaume. I'm gonna tell her how to. I've known this woman for years. She actually was over the training in which I got formal training to possibly be an elected, run a campaign or whatever like that. And so she's calling in at 9:40. And so I'm so glad that Councilor Mejia called in and pulled me in. Just wanted to acknowledge a couple of people in the room. Carrie Mays, who does a lot of this work. My understanding is a week ago or so, she was on a show and wasn't treated respectfully. And so Carrie Mays, we want to publicly say, as a Black man, we apologize on behalf of that appearance. And we celebrate and hold you up, Queen, for the work that you're doing and being a voice. I also saw, I'm gonna call him my little brother, and the only reason why I'm putting him up here because I reached out to him because I hadn't seen him in the cafe in a long time, but I saw Reek in the cafe and it was good to see him. I saw Sharon Cornelius as well. Good to see you in the room. Good to see you. And so back to what's important is that we need to pay attention. We need to begin to hold our electeds accountable, not only this new mayor, but our district councilors and our at-large councilors and our state representatives and our state senators. We've been talking and saying this for months and for years, but now it's to a point where respectfully, we need to bring them out. And so will there be another, we need to know, semi-virtual a meeting like we did in, Jesus Lord, this is 21. We did that 3 years ago in February of 18. We bought every city department that has anything to do with violence prevention, youth, They came to the Freedom House. Shout out to Charmaine and Katrina Shaw. They came to the Freedom House and they asserted to the community what it is that they do for the community and their process when there's a shooting. The trauma team, everybody was there. And then we broke bread, well, some snacks. And then after that, the community then came and said, this is what you assert. However, this is our experience. And, you know, during the lunchtime, folks had some exchanges. One of the Java family members hooked up with the homicide unit, got information after years of waiting. And so there is a proven model of us coming together and pulling out municipality leadership to have a conversation. And so stay tuned and we'll attempt to pull that together. Let's go in and check in. So Yahira, good to see you in the room. I wanted to ask you all, while I can't see like memes and the little icons and stuff, but this young lady who you all have seen in the Java Cafe many times recently lost her grandmother. And so an advocate, a momficate was still running for office. And so we still need to uplift her in prayer and keep her supported. So please keep her in prayer as well. And there's Reek again. Bro, it's good to see your name pop up on there. Good to see your name pop up on there. Just wanted to also make you all aware of a couple of announcements, one of which is, and I have a subject in mind, but you know, with all that's going on, the topics and the panels may change. But on Saturday, November 27th at 11 a.m., the Java Cafe is going live at the Underground Cafe and Lounge, 742. And I may have that wrong. 742 Columbus Ave. Masks are required. We will be there at 11 a.m. We're going to do this in person in real time. And right now, the subject is going to be around green space. What is Black and brown folks' role? Where is the equity around marijuana distribution, growing and whatnot for Black and brown people here in the city of Boston. And then space, as you all know, Sheena Collier, Boston While Black, Amari Parrish Jeffries, who does King Boston, is working on a big space around Martin Luther King, his statue. I keep looking at the phone to make sure the call doesn't come in. And you know, he's working on that. And Thaddeus Miles did the Black Joy Weekend event. Makiba McQuarrie made sure that there was space at the Museum of Fine Art. She has since moved on. And so I'm reaching out to those kind of folks to talk about green space for Black and brown Boston. So right now that is the topic. However, with all that's going on, that may switch. And so we have Alejandra St. Guion calling it in a few minutes. And I just might call her because I know she is riding. She said she would be driving. And so I'm going to ask you now if there's any issue around the sound or whatever with her being in her car. Please, in her car, please excuse the sound there. Let me check. Let me check with her right now. Hold on for 1 second to tell her she can call in now. And she
unknown caller.
There she goes. Counselor. Hold on. Let me do this right to get you in the room. So, okay. Let me say it again and hear your reaction. Counselor.
Hello. Soon to be, hopefully. How are you?
Ali, I'm doing well. I think this is a bright spot for today because, as you know, when I first heard you and I shared text, and I was begging you to do it.
I know.
So now,
I know.
Are you thinking about it?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, you told that Mayor Janey that I would be thrilled to serve. And
hold on, because we need this joy. We need this joy. We need this joy, Counselor. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Thank you. And so, we're trying to figure out, really, I mean, she's the one doing the work around, how to make that happen as soon as possible. Cause, I want to get the most out of it, right? When I talked to you about it, some of my hesitations were like, I don't want this to be a exercise in ego, right? It's not about having a title. It's not about, once you're counselor, you're always counselor. I joke about that. But really, was there something that I could do in this period of time? And what are the ways that I could support, my fellow counselors? I had the opportunity to listen to Counselor Mejia earlier, and just everything she says around really focusing on mental health and centering the lives of Black and brown people. As we talk about police reform, as we talk about trauma, as we talk about mental health, and not letting incidents that have happened to, like you said, derail any kind of progress or potential progress on police reform. So that's all happening right now, in the now, right now. And so the opportunity to be a part of that, to influence that, to share my own story, my own struggles with mental health, my own story of trauma, I think is what led me to say yes, and I talked to Kim. I'm like, how many laws can I pass? And she's like, probably not that many, if any. She said, but what you can do, is you'll have a bully pulpit and you'll be there, and continue what you've done for 20 years is advocate, for those who are in community, those who, aren't at the table, should be at the table, but aren't at the table. And so, so I appreciate the opportunity to do that. I love so many people on this council doing just amazing work. Ricardo, Councilor Royal, Councilor Mejia, Councilor Edwards, and, outgoing councilors as well, like Councilor Campbell. And I just, it's really exciting for me. And as much as I, would love to be working with the incoming council as well, because they're really like, they're fire, right? Like when we got, Kendra Hicks coming in, we got, Tanya Fernandez, Ruthie. I mean, it's just, these are just fire, and so I'm excited to at least prep what I can for them maybe, and then possibly in January working with them in a different capacity as a community member and as supporter. So I think times are changing, and the council that we see today, the council that we're going to see tomorrow, the council that we're going to see in years to come is based on the work that people like you, people in the community have been doing for decades. And like the Councilor Mejia said, the answers are there. We know what it is. It's just the political will to do it. And so I'm excited for the next. Hopefully, I'm hoping it's more than a few weeks. And like you said, all of that depends on what the clerk decides in terms of bringing it forward, and whether I think there has to be like a unanimous vote if it's going to be same day. We're still trying to figure out those logistics. Our goal is to start next week if possible. But either way, I think it's the work never ended, right? The work never ended with the campaign, right? It's just the work continues. The work has continued over the pandemic. The work that I've done, since the campaign. And so the work will continue, and, maybe this will just help elevate a little bit, that we can bring more voices in about issues that are so critically important to the people of Boston.
So you all that are watching that may not ever understood or may not be aware of who this young woman is, you now have a good example in real time as to why I was begging and pleading. Actually, Alejandra, if you remember, and you move in communications, if you remember, you were my first official news quote. And so I appreciate
remember.
I appreciate you. And thank you for IDCL. And thank you for many of us, Alejandra, for years that you overstood folks like Shauna Bryant, myself, Erica Estevez, so many others who have went through that training, and you helped lay a formalized training for us to really understand this political process. And so I know you're heading into a meeting. Thank you so much, Counselor. We will want to talk with you soon, in any way that we can support you once you get in. And I support you out and post. Here.
Yes. And likewise, Jimmy, thank you so much for all that you've done.
Josie my best, and pick up the little man and hug him for me as well.
Well, he's 50 pounds now, so the whole pickup thing a little bit. He's like a 50-pound, 4'4" Dude is big.
He got big out of nowhere. So.
Out of nowhere. So he's the light of my life, and I appreciate that. And I look to him also as inspiration in the work that I do, and looking at what we can do for men, boys of color, men of color, who are dealing with a lot, And I look at him, and I know he's blessed, and I know he's privileged. And even with that, the struggles that he'll face, just being who he is.
Counselor,
right?
Thank you for speaking to that.
Thank you. And we'll be in touch soon. Much love to you, Jimmy.
All right. Thank you so much, Counselor. We'll talk soon. Thank you.
Cool. Bye.
So it's been a full day, but do you all understand now why I was so adamant about trying to get her to take this time on the council? Because listen, Michelle, oh crap, how could I forget? While we got so many people in the room, and I don't even know if I put this flyer up, Jesus, I don't think it's even ready. Counselor, up until the 16th, Mayor-elect Michelle Wu, I can't believe I don't have the flyer. I'm going to get it ready. Mayor-elect Michelle Wu is coming into the Java Cafe tomorrow at 9 a.m. And we're going to talk. She's going to be on screen, and we're going to have a conversation. You all have observed our rapport and seen that before, but we're going to have a real conversation. She's always open to real conversations around accountability processes and whatnot. And so Michelle Wu will be in the room tomorrow at 9 a.m. But there may be some things that the council may need to vote on between now and January, when the other councilors are sworn in. Please know that there are 4 meetings scheduled between November 16th and the end of the year. And so there's a meeting the next day after Michelle Wu becomes mayor, and that gap is left. And so I believe, Kim, based on what Alejandra said, I believe Mayor Janey is trying to work with the city clerk that notification is made on November 16th at 12:01 a.m. or right after Mayor-elect Wu is sworn in, Maureen Clerk, I don't know what you call her. I call her Maureen. She used to be a city councilor. Maureen informs the council, obviously Alejandra. But so here's a couple of other things y'all need to keep in mind. Mayor Janey goes back to being the city council president. She never gave up District 7. Matt O'Malley, who is the pro tempo, goes back to just being a city councilor, and then Alejandra joins the council. And for about 6 or 7 weeks, we don't know what Mayor-elect Wu will propose. And so it's good to have her in there and raise a lot of things. Listen, if you are watching Mayor Janey in these last few weeks, and not so much that I think she's afraid that, you know, Councilor Wu will disrupt a lot of stuff, but we also gotta applaud and appreciate the fact that Mayor Janey has been pushing out ordinances and legislation that are very favorable toward Black and brown people here in the city of Boston. So shout out to her for that. All right, guys, it's it for me. Today's Wednesday. We will see you on Spark FM today briefly at 1 p.m. because I have to go do some recording for Brookline Cable. I got to go check the text. All right. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Please don't forget tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. I need all of you in the room for this conversation with the mayor-elect. Share it, share the flyer where folks are coming, where folks can come in. And don't forget that the Java Cafe is open every day at 9 a.m. Monday through Thursday. Here, your community-driven platform. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Thank you all for tuning in. Pray for me, and I appreciate you. And I can't let this go by without shouting out my brother, the first brand to unsolicitedly so, without solicitation, hit me up one day and was like, bro, I see what you're doing. I'm going to come and drop off some merch. It happens to be red. So shout out to my brother, Serene, loving for Forever Known. And definitely want to celebrate that Black business and that label as well. So have a wonderful day, everybody. And we'll see you briefly this afternoon at 1 p.m. Thank you.